What's up, guys? Beautiful day. Really enjoying ourselves out here. I got a spectacular show for you today. In the person of my friend, my brother, Mr. Jeron, Melanated Mosley. All right, and check it out, man. It's gonna be awesome. Let's go.
It's been 400 years of slavery and oppression. The shackles are broken, and we learn our lesson. Leaving the land of the free and the home of the brave. Dry bones in the valley, coming out of the grave. Hey, I'm going home.
And I mean, as I connect with this guy, it's just refreshing. It's refreshing, man. And so I wanted to do an interview with him. I believe he's a very, very deep thinker and a true thought leader. And so I wanted to pick his brain and give you guys a panoramic view at the same time. All right. So I'm gonna ask some questions, and we're gonna get his answers and go from there. Okay. So first question, my brother, is what made you move to the Gambia?
Okay. Let me first off say, thanks for having me
Yes.
on your show.
Absolutely.
It's an honor. This brother is
Man, it's an honor
really,
to have
his brother and his wife, his family, everybody really good. Excellent food here as well. You know what I'm saying? Okay. So what made me move here? That's like it's a long answer. It's a convoluted answer.
Man, we got time. Take your time, brother. Take your time. Man.
Yeah. I think for me, I think probably spiritually, I think when I was, a young child, just that longing of returning back to the continent. I think I learned at an early age that things that I saw on TV and images of our people here on the continent, that it wasn't quite accurate, because it was always incongruent when I would actually meet continental Africans in the U.S.
Wow.
Very, very loving and wonderful people, and things that I would learn in school, it really wasn't, it really wasn't matching up.
Yeah.
So that always sparked my interest, and just as I got older, and when you begin to love yourself a lot more, you want to know, where does all of that come from?
Wow.
And I think just naturally, ancestors spoke to me just to always have this longing inside of me to want to go out and learn more about myself and culture. So, we began to see how things sort of, happened in the West, and we look at our generations before. We look at our parents, our great-grandparents, and we look and see what has fundamentally changed.
Wow.
And when you look and you see that things really haven't changed, I had to ask myself, do I want to live and die this way? Do I want to continue to be in the hamster wheel?
Wow.
Do I want to continue to fight with no end in sight, and to not yield any beneficial result?
Right.
So for me, I had to be okay and make a decision about, okay, if I want to go ahead and leave, leave the States, if I come here to the continent of Africa, where am I going to go?
Yeah.
That was a very large part about our history that was ripped from us, and we need to also keep in mind that our legacy in the States did not begin with slavery.
Right.
We had cultures and lives and spirituality way before we got here, and that always wanted, that always put a fire and a desire in me to get back to that.
Man, it's so amazing because you said something, man, that just set off sparks in my mind. And that was that when you did the comparison of what you were taught in the States versus what you actually begin to understand and come into the knowledge of here, basically what you were saying is that everything that they kept us from was still preserved in its place here. That's amazing, man, because that means that although whatever efforts were made to keep us and disconnect us from our heritage and who we were, was still here, preserved, in place, waiting on you to visit the continent and interact with it and reconnect with it.
Yes, it's for me, it was sort of like I knew where I had to go for things to begin to make sense and to be able to come full circle.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
And I said, okay, where specifically do I want to go here in the continent? And like with many of us, we looked at, Tanzania, we looked at Ghana, we looked at Sierra Leone, and also Gambia was a place of interest as well. And I remember I would get this certain feeling. Seeing YouTube, we have to be very responsible about what it is that we put out.
Absolutely.
And if it's anything of negativity, I know how to weed past it and get around all that. But when negative things were being said for some reason about Gambia, I said, why am I feeling this way? Of course, if it was said about other nations here within the continent.
Now, can you specify what way you were feeling?
Yeah. I felt it was more like it was a combination of embarrassment that it would have to come out of someone's mouth, another person that's melanated that looks just like me, to say something disrespectful about the people of this continent, the culture, and everything about the Gambia.
So like it was somewhat like of a holy indignation,
Absolutely. It was like, it was like a wholesale indictment of a whole entire culture. And I would feel a certain way. I would be embarrassed because it's like that's not indicative of who we are and where we come from in the States.
Absolutely.
And one person can really kind of negatively impact our image. I would get very frustrated and upset whenever I would hear negative things, and I'm saying, why am I feeling this way about the Gambia in particular when I hear that? So that level of frustration, I had to meditate on it and sort of pray on it, and the answer that I received, and it could be by the divine and also my ancestors, was if it makes you upset, that is where you're meant to be and where you're meant to serve.
Wow.
And that's how I ended up here in Gambia.
Stop right there, man. You got to say that again. We need a rewind of that. Say that one more time.
If it's something that upsets you or if it impacts you in a certain way, that's where you're meant to be and what you're meant to serve.
Wow. So that you took that as a calling to come to Gambia.
Yes.
Wow. That's amazing, man.
And and I've heard things said about maybe many other places, but it didn't hit me and impact me.
Feel that way.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So tell me what was your experience once you finally got boots on the ground here?
Okay. I had to do a lot of emotional unpacking before I left the States.
Wow. Stop right, man. You're saying so much, man. It's so much. So I want to take this moment because I'm learning this guy, and everything I'm learning about him is great. It's impactful. I know he's intentional with what he does. So I want to make this as a point. Emotionally unpack before you get here. Emotionally unpack before you get here.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And the reason why, because I want to give Africa the very best of me. And I've always harbored this fear that I did not want any Western negative mentality to impact or to tarnish something that's beautiful over here. which is why when we come from the West, we're very passionate. We come from a culture where a lot of us, we know fight, we know drama, we know strife, we know just so many survival basically. And I wanted to live. I did not want to survive.
Yeah. You know what? I want to make a point there, because I think it's extremely important for people from environments where we come from and the like to understand that it is not normal to live consistently in survival mode. You know, if you have a lion chasing a deer, that deer has an instinct to survive. So it'll run, but that it is impossible for that deer to continue to run and run and run and run. If that lion never gets tired, that deer is going to lose its life, because it's not designed to continue to be in survival mode. And for a lot of us from the States, we grew up, you know, being forced to live in survival mode so long that it has become normal. So I think it's important for us to emotionally unpack, as Mosley has said, because we'll come over here with that same mentality and then burn out.
Yeah, I mean, and here's the thing, you know, we build up a lot of this anxiety and anger, and we learn that anger is one letter short from danger.
Wow.
You see, you're only you have to understand that we're only one decision away from losing everything. We're one decision or circumstance away from losing.
I'm sorry. Okay. Okay. Take two.
Okay. No, so I mean, we're one decision away or circumstance away from losing everything, from losing our lives.
Yes.
And we have always been in that survival mode.
Yeah.
And I did not want to carry any of that baggage,
Yeah.
you know, here to the continent. Now there are many things I don't have control over here.
Yeah.
So once I was able to do that, I was a lot more open.
I think it's amazing, man, that you would take upon the responsibility and do what you can do that's in your control to make sure that the image of Africa and the people of Africa are not tarnished.
Correct.
That's number one. Number two, I think it's important for all of us to understand, not giving anybody a pass, you know, on anything, but sometimes before you stereotype a group of people, you gotta understand where they come from and what circumstances they had to live in and under to understand why they do what they do. Now, I'm not saying that gives them a pass to act the way that they act if it's disrespectful or out of order, but understanding why those group of people act the way that they act will kind of help you to be able to not stereotype a whole nation of people based on a group of people who've had to live under those circumstances.
I agree, brother. Yeah. And I think that I look at it like that is who I am. I think is really my gift to the Creator and also to my Gambian people here on the continent. Mm-hmm. And I hold that in very high esteem. Yeah. So I think that many of us that are coming here, I do believe that here in Gambia that we're getting some of the very best from where we come from.
Yes.
Right? Just think, back in the States, you would have brothers ancestors that will come from Ethiopia, Nigeria, many different nations here, and they will go over to the States and pursue education and, you know, and have these, you know, really excellent careers.
Right.
And that is because the continent in Africa will always send their very best.
Wow.
When you think about slavery, when you think about when the Europeans sent people over to the States, mm-hmm. they sent their drunkards, they sent jailbirds, they sent their absolute worst.
Wow. Wow.
When Africans are involved, we send our very best.
Wow.
So we have the best intentions. Now, of course, as with anything else, you're gonna have bad apples, right? Yeah. But for some reason, I think psychologically we've been conditioned and ingrained in Western culture to if it's melanated, it must be something negative. You
Negative.
always assume the worst. You always, have the lowest expectation.
They say whenever you tell a lie consistently over time, it becomes the truth. And I think in many cases that has been the case. Sometimes somebody will take an incident with one person from a certain ethnicity, and they'll put everybody in the same boat and continue to talk about it over and over and over again till it becomes a popular belief.
Correct.
And people accept it as truth.
Correct.
And the definition of belief is to accept as true and real.
Yeah.
So if somebody believes something, they accept it as true and real. And of course, whatever you accept as true and real is going to govern your life.
Correct.
And your behaviors.
And also, your reality may be completely different from someone else's, and your reality also plays a part in that too.
So are you saying people are living in altered realities?
You know what? I would say, yeah. I would say people are living in altered realities. For example, in altered reality, like in America, it's sad, but I think many of us have had to learn where we fit into the scheme of all things when it comes to African people living in America.
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely.
You know that you may have to work twice as hard, and you also know that anything negative that can happen, we're overrepresented in everything negative, in every negative aspect.
Absolutely.
It could be in poverty, it could be maybe in education,
Sickness,
it could be in diseases and sickness, but we always are overrepresented in any negative aspect.
Yes.
Right? So I think just naturally, some people may be compelled to just naturally believe that, okay, this is just what life is. We're always supposed to be on the bottom. So why work harder to want to try to do anything to get yourself out of that situation?
Absolutely.
So the reality for some people would be, hey, I done grew up in the housing projects. My grandmama, my mama, me, my children now live in the housing projects.
Yeah.
This is just what reality is for us.
Right.
For people in that situation.
Absolutely.
We know that there are different laws and different systems that work against us, right?
Yeah.
Now the reality is you may have someone from the same background as you that did not grow up in that environment. Their reality may be just a little bit different.
Totally different.
Their access to certain things, the reality is if something breaks, I know I can just call a repairman to come and fix it, right? So I'll give you, and I'll kind of put it into context. Here, when I see some comments sometimes, like on my channel, if I do an interview with someone, I did an interview with a young lady where I went to manually wash clothes. Okay, and the sister, she had complained about her back and the pain, and I even tried to offer maybe different ways, both on and off camera, on how to alleviate pain from her back, maybe a different alternative method to washing clothes.
Right.
Okay. Her reality is no, I've been doing this for so long. My reality and what the other comments were, why doesn't she just get a washer machine?
Right.
Why doesn't she just why doesn't she just have something to build and to elevate it so her back can be straight?
Right.
The reality is we know we have access to certain things like that, but this sister, her reality is that she doesn't.
I think it's all about exposure too. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Correct. No, sorry. And what people also didn't understand also about that video was that sister did not own that land that she was working on, and the landlord that had that land did not want her to build up or do anything to make her job even more easier.
Wow.
That's what some people didn't know. So those are different realities. We have an expectation thinking that everyone has access to certain things here. So people will make these assumptions thinking that, oh, all you have to do is simply do that.
You know what? That leads me into my next question. That leads me into my next question, which is, since we're talking about exposure, right? Okay, when you got boots on the ground and you begin to be exposed to the people, the culture in Gambia, what was the biggest lesson that you've learned since you've been here, or the biggest eye opener that you've learned?
Okay. The biggest eye-opener is that when I look at my Gambian brothers and sisters, it's almost like looking into the eyes of an ancestor. Wow. The same folks that you would see maybe like on YouTube or like seen in a book. You see those same faces. It's like a time capsule. It's like living in reverse and in forward at the same time.
Yes, yes.
Wow. And also the fact that whether our brothers and sisters here, there is a noticeable disparity within economies. Okay, but here, like, your brother and sister will feed you even if they don't have anything themselves, whether you have something or not.
Which I think
they will still give you something.
That is amazing. What amazes me is the fact that they will not only give you something, but some of the conditions that they find themselves living in, they still maintain a happy disposition. Yes. You know, they're not down and out about life. I can't tell
not down and trodden.
I can't tell you how many people have encouraged me while they have sat and not worked for 11 months. Yeah. Because they work in tourism. Yes. Right. And they're encouraging me, saying, brother, it's going to get better. It's going to get, and they've been sitting there for 11 months trying to figure out how they're going to survive because the tourist season has been messed up by COVID.
Absolutely.
I think that's amazing.
And here's the thing. You had to come from a developed yet imperfect nation to come and find that level of peace here.
Wow.
And you and just hear me out on this. Just hear me out on this.
Okay.
So when you come here, why would you want to leave the States? Why would you? It's wonderful. I'm trying to get to where you're coming from. And you can have access to many different things in the West, but there is still a level of sadness. There is a lack of fulfillment,
a level of stress. Yes.
But when you actually get here, I tell my brothers and sisters, what you think that you might desire and want, where I'm coming from in the States, the advantage that you have over me, my good brother and sister, is that you have known peace a lot longer than I have.
Wow.
And you have lived it.
And honestly, living in that condition or that environment with that dynamic actually helps you to live longer and to enjoy the time that you are living out. Yeah. It's amazing.
Now, can you imagine, let's say like when you were younger, I don't know how your situation may have been, but it was times even within my own family when times got hard, you move in with your auntie or your cousins and stuff like that. And even if they did not have a lot, y'all still had one another.
Absolutely.
You playing with your cousins and everything, and at times you didn't even realize that you didn't have as much.
Absolutely.
But you had one another. And that's what you get here. That's what you see.
Wow.
It is, you know, when we're talking about compounds, there are two types. When we're talking about compounds, sometimes people are talking about just having like a large home or, you know, some type of edifice that a family lives inside of, and then you have a surrounding high wall, you know, private just for your family.
Yes.
And for most of our locals here, they also live in a compound, which is going to be your high walls, but it's an enclosed multi-family dwelling.
Yes.
So they interact with one another, different families.
Yes.
When it comes to cooking, a lot of it is communal. They use the same space.
Yes, and the same bowl to eat out of.
Yes, same space.
Same jar to drink out of.
Yeah, you know, pumping from the same well sometimes or the same borehole. Yeah. So even if you don't, what we would consider to be having something, you know, from the West, people here, they get it. And that's what I want to get back to. Because when you look at how the world is going now, what we learn from our brothers and sisters here is teaching us how to simply live and be able to enjoy life.
Absolutely.
And to enjoy the company and see the benefit of one another. If there was someone that just hit a button and said the banking system and everything is down, all this credit that you was trying to get up to have, all of that, if they wiped all of that out, many of us, all we know is college education. All we know is just going to school and have these technical jobs. What happened to farmers? What happened to having trades in high school and stuff like that? All those programs that were taken out. Those, although those might be considered basic where we come from, those things are definitely needed. And I think lastly, and I shared this on one of my videos that I did, one of the biggest eye-openers for me, here you have a lot of people that come from Europe, that come from Lebanon, that come from China, who openly exploit our men, women, and children here in the Gambia. And it's done so arrogantly and with impunity because no one ain't gonna tell them anything and dare say anything to them. Now, in the States, you know, we have many different people who are just a little bit more trained, maybe, and educated to know what it is, and different organizations to actually go and try to advocate to make sure that people are protected. And I'm sure they may have something like that here. However, it's just very overt. It's just in front of your face. But it's just the arrogance and the impunity of, hey, I can come here to exploit your people, and nobody's going to say anything to me about it. So if I were to say something or to address that, which I have on a couple of occasions, sometimes it's received well, but for the majority, it's kind of, oh no, this person here is our friend. You're the person that's not good for calling this out.
I think bringing that up, I think it really drives home the point that we were talking about earlier about realities.
Yes.
You know, how can you change a reality without changing dynamics? And what I mean by that is, we coming from the West want to change the reality of what we see and we experience when it comes to that, but we have to change the dynamics of that person in order for their reality to change. I think oftentimes the reason why they're doing that is not because they really want to, but because they feel like they're forced to because of their financial situation. And so when people like you and I and the Bags and Juliet and Molly and all of the others come and create economical opportunities,
correct,
that I believe that's how we can change the dynamics, which in return will change their reality, you know,
correct,
as it relates to that. Now, you know, I believe those individuals could make better decisions when it comes to allowing people to exploit them if their financial situation was different, only because that's why they're doing it. I believe. I don't know.
I'm going on that one. I'm going to have to sort of disagree.
Okay.
I'm going to have to sort of disagree because when it comes to exploitation, and I'm speaking of really commercial sexual exploitation. Okay. A lot of that could be victimization and abuse that happened at an early age. Okay. And even when we're talking about children out here, no child has, you know, they cannot consent. And secondly, they have necessarily they don't have like any agency to protect themselves.
And just so you know,
yes,
I wasn't thinking in that angle in terms of children.
Yeah.
Because man, that's crazy.
Okay, now keep in mind. Now let's move on to the adults.
Okay.
You have Arrested Development. These adults were those children.
Wow.
Okay, so now is it necessarily a choice at that point?
You know, I wrote a book 5 months ago, and the name of it is called Trapped in the Past No More. And it's actually talking about that. About the first chapter is called Learned Behavior.
Yeah.
And learned behavior is something that is gathered from the observation of the choices and behaviors of others.
Correct.
That seeps into your own life, because these are people who are authority figures in your life. So what happens is, as you learn how to decide based on them deciding, and they're deciding based on their past generation.
Correct.
When you grow up to a point to where you're able to care for your own self, you only choose from the pool of decisions that you were exposed to. And that causes a generational effect, generation by generation, of people who are making the same choices, who are putting themselves in the same decisions, and who are affected by the same environmental they're affected by the same environmental and have the same environmental issues that their forefathers had because of learned behavior. They're making the same decisions over and over and get the same results.
Okay, so to also put that into context too, when we're talking about a learned behavior, with us, when we take things even back to slavery, let's say if you have the mother and you have the daughter, and you have slave master walk into the barn and he says, oh, your baby, young baby, she's sure getting mighty older now, looking grown. Mama will say, you know what, oh, you don't want that ugly nappy headed baby. And as a protective factor, you would make your child look undesirable to the master so they don't get violated. So you will constantly reinforce and tell that child that, and their child may eventually begin to believe that.
Wow. Well, telling the false over and over and over again eventually becomes the truth.
Correct. So so to kind of go back to what we were discussing just a little bit earlier.
Sure.
So if you have been violated, okay, children have no concept of sexuality unless they have been introduced to it or if they have been violated, right?
Absolutely.
So if all you learn, even familial exploitation too, sometimes they'll say, hey, we need to keep the lights on and everything, and they will actually have someone come and violate a child. That very, very sick, right? But as that child becomes older, it's like, okay, well, how do I survive? What can I do? I must commodify my body to be able to do that. So what I want to try to get people to understand is, in my estimation, it is not necessarily, it is a choice at that point. I mean, who wants to wake up and be with random dirty people?
Absolutely.
With them.
Absolutely.
And although sometimes you may see people out here, smiling, trying to get your attention and everything, hopefully you'll give them something in exchange for, for immoral acts and things like that. I don't care how many times someone smiles. I don't think there's anybody that likes that. And in my work that I've done back in the States, I have worked with victims of human sex trafficking.
Wow.
Juvenile all the way up to adult. And I have learned that same child that was violated at the age of 4 all the way up into maybe 17 years of age, when they get into their 40s and 50s, they are still that same 4-year-old.
Absolutely.
And that type of behavior, they always try to go back to the age where they felt safest. So you will have a 50-year-old person making a 4-year-old decision. Stuck, so man. That's what I want to try to that's what I want to try to get people to understand is that yes, you may see some people out there that may be doing that exchange. I put that on the person that knows damn well what they are doing is exploiting someone.
Wow.
Why don't you say, you know what, young sister, whoever they may be. When I say sister, I'm talking about, if it's like us talking to one another, hey, I have, I can employ you or I can assist you with this, right? Have honorable intention without wanting anything in return. I think people need to learn that first.
I think we're saying the same thing in terms of, coming, some of those individuals that have financial stability, and of course, the money stretches here to create opportunities to break these cycles. So that people don't continue to produce and perpetuate the same behaviors, the same decisions, and the same activity.
So look at our history. Being commodified for our bodies. We have to be fit. Anytime. How about this? If I were to say, think of someone twerking, what culture are you gonna automatically think of?
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
So using the body and hypersexualization usually is associated with us. Okay. That part is very unfair, and it's reinforced through media. And sometimes, what I don't like is the fact that those stereotypes are reinforced sometimes by us.
You know what? And that's true. I think in return, us, our family, we have to become responsible enough, especially those of us that have influence, to use the same platforms and ways to continue to promote the real truth, so that a flip-flop situation can take place. And what I mean by that is what has become the truth, which is a lie, can be turned back to what is the truth, you know, by using our platforms and continuing to put out content like this.
The truth is the truth, even if nobody believes it.
Absolutely.
Falsehood is false, even if everybody believes it.
And the truth will always outlive a lie.
Yep.
We just got to continue to push the truth out there. And that's why I feel like it's not enough of us that are really showing the true picture. You know, so I'm encouraging people to start YouTube channels, to get into media, and to yell out and scream from the mountaintops and show what the real truth is. Because if enough of us do that consistently and long enough, it'll start to reverse the propaganda.
I think what kind of gets in the way of that is, you know, we've always had that philosophy, especially in our families, is what happens in this house
stays in this house. Wow,
Okay.
wow.
What policy do we have if, like, let's say you live in a gang-infested neighborhood and there's a shooting and you got a 2-year-old child laying in the street and you happen to see it? What mantra in the hood do people go by when somebody's asking, hey, let's investigate what happened? You don't snitch and you don't tell and you don't cooperate. Right? You go to other neighborhoods, they all up on camera, they telling everybody about what's going on.
Yes.
Okay.
And crimes in those neighborhoods are getting solved because of that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Crimes are not getting solved. So really, you're doing the enemy's work for them.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Right. So then we have a community that has sometimes no desire to fix its own problems.
Yeah.
We got bad seeds in our community as well that definitely will not be a part of this journey.
Yeah.
And we have to do some house cleaning.
Absolutely.
People that are not good for us, toxic situations, you need to definitely weed them out of your life. So we need to start policing ourselves and stop inviting other groups to come in and tell you what's good for you and your community.
Absolutely.
That's going to be the first thing.
Yeah.
And having a completely different mantra that, yes, it does take a village. Although it sounds cliche, that's literally what it is. Remember, the era that I came in, I do recall a time where if I done something wrong, a neighbor might go ahead and pop you.
Yeah.
Your grandmama gonna pop you.
Absolutely.
And then when your mom got home from work,
she would get you.
She gonna go ahead and get you too.
Absolutely.
And my mother would also have to check other kids in the neighborhood if they did some things too.
Yeah.
It wasn't because she was mean. It was because you love somebody enough to say, I am watching you, somebody is watching you, and I want to help redirect some of that behavior. We don't have that. Oh, no, that ain't none of my business. I don't want to get involved. And, you do it in moderation, depending on what it is. You don't want to become involved in certain things, but we have done it so much to a fault to where we'll see something go on right in front of us. Oh, ain't none of my business.
Yeah.
And my personal philosophy is, if I see our people getting harmed, if it's within my power to prevent or at least speak up and sound the alarm and say something about it, I'm going to do it.
Do it. Yeah.
I don't need to wait for enough people to get behind me.
Yeah.
I've lived my life that way where I will make an informed decision and say I'm going to respond. God, go ahead and guide me.
Yeah.
And hopefully it may inspire others, because I've noticed that when we talk about taboo discussions and things like this, I have so many people that may love what I do, they may respect what I do on my channel, and people in my personal life, they'll stand behind you, but when it's time to go ahead and do something, nobody's willing to stand beside you.
Wow.
So I got a lot of folks that's up behind me, cheering me on, right?
But who's going to stand beside me?
Yeah, but who
trenches?
is going to stand beside me, right? So that's one of those things that we definitely need.
That's amazing, man. And that's why I appreciate this relationship.
Yeah.
Because I think both of us have, like minds, like spirits, and the guts enough to do a show like this.
Yeah.
You know, and do what we can do to play our little part in the bigger picture to affect change.
Yeah. Oh, and by the way, expect some thumbs down and some,
absolutely.
you know, some snarky comments and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
And I just want y'all to know, you know, we welcome like, sharing, and subscribing and commenting and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
And we know that not all of our subscribers and viewers come from our same background.
Yeah.
There is really nothing that you can say that can't be deleted.
Yeah.
There is nothing that you can say to thwart our attempt in trying to progress and move forward. We do this as responsibly as we can and as open and candidly as we can.
Yeah.
But yet we understand that there are some people and some trolls out there that want to say disrespectful things.
Right.
Understand that when you come from the West, I think based off of trauma and things that we've had to deal with and different life experiences, that we are a warrior class. So you really ain't doing nothing over here by making disrespectful and negative comments.
Absolutely.
And usually people that have an issue with what we're talking about may have some unresolved trauma or don't want to face certain things.
Or may also have grown up in an environment
Absolutely.
where certain false truths have been perpetuated
Correct.
throughout generations.
Correct.
So they can't relate or understand
Correct.
or have any compassion or grace
Correct.
because they didn't grow up in that environment. Instead, they grew
Correct.
up in an environment where they were programmed based on what their elders wanted them to understand
Correct.
and know.
Correct. You know, so again, you know, I just wanted to put that out there because anytime you have a controversial topic or somewhat of a taboo topic, I know in our communities, many people have, you know, definitely will put a spin on it. And this is based off of my experiences in life, based off of what I have seen within my own family, within my own community, within my own, you know, previous career as well.
Let me ask you this, man. Coming to a close, what is your mission for your channel? I think this is a great segue to go into that question. What is your mission for your channel, and what do you hope to accomplish with the platform that you have built so far and are continuing to build?
Sure. So the purpose really for my channel is to give transparent and honest information so you can be as informed as possible to kind of look out for things in the West, maybe signs that you may not have taken notice of, to know that the West may not necessarily be for you. Never has been for us, right?
Yeah.
And to consider coming to the continent of Africa, wherever you may want to go. I happen to be in Gambia. I love Gambia. I will travel to different places, but Gambia here is my home. To also to inspire and to compel other people to just walk out on faith.
Yeah.
To walk out on faith, to know that this continent has something here for you, but you must be open and you must be willing to leave behind the emotional baggage.
Yeah.
And to try to prepare people for things that they're going to see. I'm a work in progress, and I love the fact I have a channel, because that very next video I'm going to show you is probably going to talk about, oh, okay, so this is what I'm not going to do this time, right?
Wow.
This is what I may have told you before, which panned out to, you know, this is the other side of it as well.
Yeah.
Because I think that when we came here, yes, we watched other YouTubers, and we may have asked around and stuff like that, but their reality may not be yours.
Absolutely.
What someone else has recommended that you go and do might not be your reality.
Absolutely.
So I want to just at least put out as much information that I can so you don't come out here blindsided that you would regret the fact that you came here.
So how do we connect with you and your channel? Give us some information on how we can become subscribers and how we can get access and encounter your information.
Sure. Okay. So my channel is the Melanated Mr. Mosley, and you can always comment, like, share, and subscribe. I don't do a lot of lives. Sometimes my stuff is pre-recorded because I'm very meticulous and I like to take my time with putting my information together.
Absolutely.
But I think by doing a couple of the lives and things like that, I think it's more intimate experience where people can actually talk to you in real time.
Absolutely.
To be able to ask you questions and things like that. So although I don't do a lot of lives like many other YouTubers, occasionally I'll throw in a live and stuff like that. But I try to have my platform done in different ways to resonate with different audiences. Sometimes I'll throw in a little bit of humor. I'll come up, I'll start my videos sometimes with like an anecdotal monologue or something like that, something to kind of like reel you in and stuff. And then you may have more serious discussions and things like that. But I would like to believe that my channel resonates with many different groups of people.
Well,
So-
I know that Jeron, for myself, my encounter with him is that he is a very eclectic thinker, a deep thinker, a thought leader, and so you're going to get a lot of different perspectives and angles when you connect with his material. So I'm asking all of my followers, those that are supporting us here at Going Home with Erick and Nicole, to support my brother, and he's going to widen your perspective on issues that most don't talk about. Okay, so I'm encouraging you to go there. Give me that channel one more time.
The Melanated Mr. Mosley, your A1 from day one.
Hey man, thank you for hanging out with me. I always say when you do life with somebody, you're doing time, and when you're doing time, you're doing life. So thanks for doing life and time with me on this channel and bringing some enlightenment and perspective to this channel and those that watch this channel.
Jeff and Abaraka.
All right, take care.
Don't miss the next episode of Going Home with Erick and Nicole.